logistics sector, and we share the news and information to help each other through the pandemic COVID-19. Today, John Thomas Robinette will moderate this webinar entitled The Hidden Effort, Art Collections and Management. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. As Anna said, I'm John Robinette. I'm a freelance registrar based in New York. And today we have an interesting discussion about how we keep our institutions and our collections and museums and businesses open during this trying and unique time. So the three topics we're going to address today include the first one, the reduction of the art collections movement. And to discuss that will be Ariadna Robert from MACBA in Barcelona, Antonio Adari from Arteria in Italy, and Elizabeth G. Christensen from Mobile Transport in Denmark. Then the second topic will be museums and gallery maintenance difficulties and speaking on that topic will be Julia Betancourt from Spain, freelance conservator, Lilia Rivero from Mexico, also a program researcher, and Marta Rita from Curimansuto in Mexico City. Lastly, we're going to address how we adapt services in these challenging times. And moderating that section will be Paul Williamson from Constantine in the UK, Luciano Frohoff from Mobile Transport Switzerland, Sylvie Michel from LPR in France, Marco Oosterwijk from Hiskia van Kralingen in the Netherlands, Ana Tabuenca from Seat Spain. So without any further ado, let's get started with the reduction of art collection movement. And I'm going to pass the mic to Ariadna to discuss this.
Hi, thank you, John. Well, if I have to talk about the collections movement, although there is a huge reduction of it, I have to say that we are facing to some new facts that it makes us to do a really careful risk assessment. So we have to consider the risks that we should take, the risk that should be eliminated, or the risks that we should minimize. No? For instance, thinking of the risk that we should take or that we can think of taking, we should think about loans or exhibition that can travel without a courier, with controlled routes, and if we can accept or not the trip in function of these different matters. No? For instance, in Europe, the road transport was guaranteed in the first wave. So we have to analyze case by case if we are allowing that or not, if we are traveling by truck or air freight. And if there's, for instance, an air freight city to city, we're going to think that it could be a safe transport. But if there are different cities or airports involved, we should avoid that trip or that loan. Also, there are other things to bear in mind. We have been talking a lot about couriers done by, virtual couriers. We can consider that if the works can travel with a virtual courier, we should make the exhibition travel or the loan from our permanent collection be loaned. Also, the curators should think if they can curate a show also from their own museums virtually, if the show is already outside traveling, because this will help this exhibition go ahead. But some other matters like all the same things that make that these risks cannot be assumed are if those exhibitions must travel yes with a courier, or the curator must be there working on the site. No? If this is the fact, these risks should be eliminated. although all these cases, there's some new information or new facts that could be considered in our loan contracts or in our establishing our for instance, to establish a case in which you should stop the project, and who will be responsible for the related expenses. Relate that in the economical annex or in the contract. Or for instance, if one of the venues cannot go ahead with the co-production, then set an amount for the project that can help the other venues to be one less. This, I think that this should also be negotiated in the contracts of co-productions or touring exhibitions. You have to bear in mind that some insurance companies has this business interruption clause that although they are really expensive, sometimes it could be interesting to have them present. No? Also, there is another consideration to think about, also a new clause to include in our contracts, also in our loan contracts, with some sentence or clause covering, which covers with the lenders the possibility to extend the loan period or the exhibition period due to the pandemic or force majeure. So, or if we have another kind of restriction of this level, that way we will not have to extend contract by contract every time to be covered legally, not only with exhibition contracts, but also, as I said, in our general conditions for the loans of our collections. There are some clauses that we should add in our contracts also, due to the trips of the curators or couriers, if they are applicable. So, for instance, an agreement that guarantees the working conditions for travel and installation and the installation, an agreement on security and protection measures in accordance with the contingency plans of each institution, or the accomplishment with the legal measures in respective countries, not only in the country where they are going to work, but their own country. And then set a maximum date before the trip to postpone that. Also set a maximum date for the project to stop the project if it's necessary. Okay. Two more things that I think that are for me important is to control and manage the transport and the insurance from your own institution, if it's possible, to be able to control the whole process and have direct information from your suppliers. And finally, and due to your calendars, keep in mind that a possible movement of the dates of a traveling exhibition will affect for sure your calendars of other exhibitions and your staff related to those projects. I think that my colleagues now will explain some concrete cases that will help us to think about things like that. Thank you. If you have any question, just ask. Thank you.
Hi, so yes, as Ariadna says, please place any questions you have in the chat section of YouTube Live, and we'll get to them at the end of the section. Next to continue the discussion on this topic is Antonio Adari from Arteria in Italy.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Ariadna. Yes, I would like to bring some of our experience in these last 2 months. But before starting with my brief intervention, I would like to give very quickly some update with the Italian situation at the moment, because just last Friday, we had new restrictive rules that have been given to contain the spread of the virus. And we have now 3 different zones in Italy: red, orange, and yellow, based on the spread of the virus. Unfortunately, the area where I am from, Milan now, and Turin, all the north is the red area. This means that we have, like in a situation of lockdown, like it was in April and May. but we can still work like it was also before. Museums all over Italy are closed for approximately 1 month. They should be open again in beginning of December. However, all this new situation does not affect our operations because we have not been blocked. So we are still working, installing exhibitions in these days, because many museums decided to have the exhibitions ready for when they are opening again. So we were already collecting, packing, and this week we will complete some installations in many different cities in Italy. This is mainly in Italy. On the other hand, we also had a very large exhibition closing right these days. There were 95 couriers for the opening in February. Just to give a sign of the changes, there are now 16 couriers over 95. And these 16 couriers are 13 from Italy and only 3 from Europe. So all other couriers, there were 31 from abroad for the opening. I've been using the virtual courier or other systems like Ariadna was saying. So as I said, the operation didn't stop, and this is the topic that I wanted to discuss, because now we have to work in a pandemic. You know, like April and May, there were no real operation. Everything quite stopped. Right now we are working quite a lot, and we have to face with this situation in this pandemic and find solutions. So one thing that we learned in these last weeks is that every museum, every institution, every gallery, they have their own rules and policy and their own way to approach, you know, the pandemic. So we have our solutions, we have our ideas. In a specific situation, and we can suggest how to do it, but at the end, who decide is our customer, the museums we work for, and so we find that we must be able to guarantee the requested services, and anything is requested in a total safety. And for example, coming to our experience in these last weeks, we have done, I think, all different possibilities, you know, that you can have in this right moment for exhibition coming to Italy or loans going out of Italy. We had couriers like in the past on passenger aircraft. We had couriers on the freighter because they are still running. We had few couriers on the truck. We had couriers on a follow car driven by our drivers. We had couriers driving on a follow car on their own. They didn't want to have other people on the car, so we have been hiring a car for them. But for the most of the part, especially from some areas like UK, there were no couriers, and so we used a lot these new virtual systems to supervise and monitoring, handling, and installation with different systems. But I think that they worked quite well with the possibility to interact with the registrars and with the curators or conservators and have information on how to proceed. What we are using a lot is real-time transport tracking. This is something also that's been used in the past, but is more used now. And especially when there is no courier, this is very useful because the institution itself can follow in real time all the activity, all the transport, the location, the microclimate shocks on the shipments. So what I want to say is that, and just to conclude, I feel and I think there is a time, this is a time in which the collaboration and information sharing is very important, much more than in the past. It's been always in our business, but now is much more important. And I think, and I believe that this is precisely what we need and what we should focus on. More dialogue between us and the institutions and our clients, very open dialogue, more listening, understanding both each other, and finding the best solutions together. Because this is important to know in these last 2 months, what I understand that there are solutions always. And even in these difficult times, we have sent exhibitions right a few weeks ago to Hong Kong. There is one now going to Beijing. We are returning loans all over. So there are solutions, and these solutions can help us not to stop, even if in this right moment, in this in facing with a situation like this one, like the pandemic, is very difficult. But together we can find the solutions and still working and go on. Thank you.
Thanks, Antonio. Next, we go to Elizabeth Christensen for her contribution. You got about 4 minutes for her.
Hi. Well, like many other countries in Europe, Scandinavia is also seeing a rise in the numbers. It seems the virus is milder, so we are not having so many serious cases. However, a few weeks ago, we went into a situation where some mink farms were tested positive. And if you haven't heard about it, it's very in the media right now, because it turns out that the virus was different from the original virus. So last week, the Danish government decided to close down part of the northern country, northern Jylland. And museums in these areas are closed down, which of course has made it difficult for people to continue their work. We are still, it's a milder lockdown, so the schools are still operating, but and Copenhagen are not affected. But of course, the museums in northern Jylland that are closed down are struggling to keep up the positive spirit and to keep on working. However, then yesterday, the United Kingdom removed Denmark from the travel corridor list, which now means that trucks and drivers from Denmark, or trucks and drivers passing through Denmark, are not allowed to enter England. And this is the first time that I have heard of that the supply chain and cargo transport has been banned to enter a country. So we of course very worried, because so far transport companies have been exempted quarantine rules and restrictions. The ban in UK is so far the next 7 days. So we are of course closely monitoring what's going on and how it will evolve. The lockdown in northern Jylland is the next 14 days. And we are still able to travel in the rest of Europe to and from Denmark. But of course, we have several clients very worried about the situation, and also worried about Brexit. So we kind of have a deadline to get Danish objects out of the UK or returned before January. And this reduction in movement of cultural historic objects and artworks makes it so much more important that shipping companies and institutions and the people involved really work closely together to find solutions, like Antonio and Adriana said. We need to figure out what the possibilities are, and it might take longer to find the solutions. For now, we are also discussing the possibilities to do transport via fine art storages or reloading to trucks. It's very important to still under secure environment and with a minimum of handling of the objects, of course. So yes, it's a difficult time. It takes longer to estimate. It takes longer to plan, to prepare. find a solution. But we will find a way. We have to.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Does anyone have any other contributions on this topic they feel might have come up based on our colleagues' comments? If not, we do have a question from our one of our listeners. It was directed at Antonio, but I think that everyone could probably ask this question or answer this question. Has the situation highlighted the fact that maybe in the past we had too many couriers and maybe overstaffed our institutions, and perhaps have there been any issues with insurance companies with fewer couriers?
No, for the second question, not for private insurance companies. I mean, there is no real request, at least not from Italian companies, to have couriers like the indemnities, etc. So we do not see this problem on the insurance side. I don't know, it's difficult to answer just because, as I said, we totally understand that each museum institution, they have their policies, their rules. Probably sending couriers is also important, not only for the conservation, for supervision of the, but it's also important for the courier themselves to go to visit other museums, other institutions. So I'm not saying that is not that was too many. For sure, like the example that I said before, there were 95 couriers for this exhibition for the opening in February. There are 16 for returning, and yeah, everything is going well. I mean, like it was. I don't see, we had many other exhibitions with very fewer couriers, and there were no real problems. Using the virtual courier, it's easier from one side. It's a bit of time consuming because you have to find the right time for the people, connect, etc. So probably this makes a little bit more time during the handling and the installation of an exhibition.
Antonio, just to clarify, you mean when you say virtual courier, you mean doing a video call during the installation, correct?
We all use that virtual courier, which is not really correct, but now everyone is using that. But I say, yes, making a video call and connecting, showing what we are doing and having instruction, etc. So we have done quite a lot of those from many different museums all over the world. And it's, again, it's a bit more engaging for us because we have to, to set the right time when we have to call, and then we have to do it at that right time. If the courier is there, maybe you can say, okay, wait another 10 minutes. Maybe we finish this one. We have the other courier. We have finished this other operation. But again, I mean, it's a really much less use of resources in any different times ways.
I want to respond also based on some things that was said. I want to ask a question of Shige because with bans and lockdowns and the difficulties in Europe, has that affected things in Japan and in Asia? Do you have any restrictions on collections or objects coming from abroad?
Hello, this is Shige from Yamato. Yes, actually, in Japan, in Asia, the coronavirus situation is a little settled compared to Europe and the States. However, because of the mitigation is not really smooth. So the airline is not operating. International airline is still not operating. Only cargo and say only about 10 to 11% international airline is coming back yet. So it is really difficult to accept the transport on schedule at the moment.
Okay. Similarly, this is primarily for Elizabeth. A question from our own Ariadna. If an institution, for example, has to bring loans from New York and LA, Europe, Switzerland, and UK in a 3-month time period, what do you suggest? To go ahead with the exhibition? How can we be sure that we'll be able to do the transportation if the institution has to make the decision now? What do you suggest?
Well, I think that everything changes from day to day, from week to week. There are no guarantees, but there've never been that. But I also think that in a way we need to stay positive and hope that in 3 months it's possible and it's doable. So, I mean, we are also planning exhibitions in 3 months, and we're also planning transports to the UK next month, assuming that things will change, and we just have to keep an eye on it. That's why the planning process is so important, and the whole how the museums, institution, and agents work together. Because as long as the communication is good, so you can prepare and make a plan and say, this is what we would like to happen. And then the closer you get to the actual date, you need to check up daily on is the route changed for the air shipment? Is the air freight rate changed? And just keep each other updated all the time, because it's just changed from day to day. But for sure, I would plan for it, and then it usually works out. Might be a more difficult way, a longer way, but for sure, take it.
But for instance, may I, John? Sorry.
Okay.
For instance, what do museums need to think about? For instance, they need to think if they need cargo flights, that in the first wave, the cargo flights continue going on, or if they need direct flights, that they were going to use passenger flights. So these ones are not, well, you do not have the right to know that they are going to work. These kind of things. Do you think that this could be an interesting matter to think about, or?
Yes, I mean, if you remember, freighters never stopped, even in March, April. So, and the problem with the increase of the rates in the time, because there were no other flights, passenger flights, so everything, all the goods were going on the freighters. But they never stopped. There were more than before.
We should plan our trips through freighters better than passenger flights, no? This is the conclusion.
When it's possible, or by truck, because truck never stopped in Europe, except the problem that there is now with Denmark and UK, which is something right new. So what Elizabeth was saying, everything is changing. So we have to keep updated. But even in the worst period, truck never stopped going through Europe.
No. But I think it's also important to understand that although there's freighters still, what you said about freighters, Ariadna, it's a question of the companies with capacity. So a lot of, which I'll talk about in a minute, about something that happened to me personally a couple of weeks ago, is that I hadn't realized that the freighter companies that also cut back. They weren't running as many aircraft, and in turn they had a increased capacity in sense of demand. So although they cut back on their fleet, their operations, they had more business that they can handle. So they could dictate, you know, when they run, how much they charge. So it's not, freighters are not always a solution. So I think you just look at where you're going. Obviously, the size of what you're sending denotes whether you need a freighter or not, or just an underdeck, normal passenger plane. But most things, I would say, stick to passenger where you can, because you've got more chance of it going and not being charged as much as a freighter. So it just depends on, I mean, there's so many variables, depends where you're going to and from. So I don't think you could say one thing on the other. You just have to look at the actual operation in hand, I think.
I think that probably Ariadna was asking the worst case, what can happen? So based on the experience that we had, passenger flights were stopped for 2 months almost, but freighters never stopped. So if it's available now, for sure, you are right, but it's just in the worst case, if things are going bad, probably we know that freighters will still go on. If you remember, in April, many airlines were using the passenger aircraft as a freighter, just only to transport goods, even Lufthansa and others, because there were no flights for passengers. Passengers were not allowed to travel, and so they were using the aircraft to transport goods in the normal passenger seats, which was quite strange, but that happened for a few weeks in April and May.
I'm saying that because there are lots of museums that right now we all are thinking about our exhibitions in February, March, and we have to contract the transports now. We have public biddings, no, and public tenders that we have to contract now, and all of us were thinking the same. That's why I was asking the question. No? What should we do with that? We should.
I don't think you can answer it yet, because we don't. No one knows, as said before, you can't give an answer yet because we don't know what's going to happen next week or the week after. All we can do is nearer the time look at the different options and weigh up with museums the best way.
Yeah. But in fact, the shipment and the transport really never stopped. It's only the connections, the problems, no?
Yeah.
So we need to, we're going to move on to the next topic, but I do want to add one more comment that came in from the live chat. And this is going back to the previous question about insurance. Adrienne Reed from Huntington T. Block Insurance wanted to note that there has not been any change in insurance costs, just more questions from underwriters regarding packing, unpacking, shipping conditions for each situation. So this was in regards to, the fact that there's fewer couriers working on each exhibition. So that's some pretty good news. Okay, so now we're going to move on to our second topic, which is the maintenance difficulties that we find in museums and galleries. And to start us off on this is Julia Betancourt from Spain. Vamos, Julia.
Vamos. Thank you, John Robinette. Welcome, everyone here. I am Julia Betancourt, talking from my home base in Madrid, Spain. Our goal today is let you know about the art conservators' hidden collections carrying effort preserving and rescue artworks from risk behaviors during these times. The impacts of COVID-19 confinement for art conservators has also provided us an opportunity to pause and think about who we want to rebuild and recover our art cultural heritage institutions, art collections, and museums. As a Spanish group of International Institute for Conservation board member, in the early spring days of COVID-19 in Europe 2020, we have done a huge effort providing scientific information about how saving cultural heritage from the virus, with webinars and free seminars for all the Spanish art community all over the world. We have counted with experts helping in biology, science, and chemistry in order to save and protect our art collections from bad behaviors and negligence. But it is absolutely wrong is to apply the healthy human safety cleanliness guidelines and bring it into the art cultural heritage scenario. So because of that, I will talk mainly about 2 or 3 hidden main conservation topics. The first one will be the new curatorial conservation maintenance in art collection. The second will be uncontrolled art collections environment versus controlled. And if I have time, I will talk about why institutions and collections should invest in preventive art conservation process. So let's begin. The maintenance in art collection exhibitions as an art conservator in charge of collections, maintenance, cleaning, and disinfections, we have seen non-training people spraying solvents, alcohol, blends, or strong industrial detergents inside and outside monuments, and over remarkable and unique art pieces collections. Even in transit artworks, crates have been manipulated as well in order to be clean and disinfected surface from COVID-19 presence, sometimes to show a false sense of security. There are several considerations when it comes to cleaning and disinfection surface in cultural collections within a museum. The decision to clean must take into consideration the building material is itself, glass, plastic, wood, metal. Porous materials or surface must be treated differently than non-porous surface or materials, for example. There are other room collections spaces, disinfection methods, which may provide health hazards to the applicants and add risk to the cultural objects and artworks, like using vaporized toxic chemicals, and also may expose both the applicator and or public to the vapor, mist, or fog in air. Despite of this, there are a bunch of tools using in this moment, hopefully not too much now, but we have to avoid things like ultraviolet light and ozone cleaning system. The quantity and amount of time you need to apply to be effective are so high that they become a huge risk, not only for artworks, but also for humans. So the best and the unique rule which we really recommend is works and doing nothing. Let's the art object spend the time they need under quarantine, resting in a safe area if you can, and if you have room. And in case a crate or a box have been in direct contact with COVID-19, call to your local or confident art conservator. The second, what I want to talk is about controlled and uncontrolled art collection environment. Almost everybody knows how the virus works and how the airborne transmissions goes from one side to other one. So I will share a few Smithsonian guidelines in order to control the art collection environment. You can see their website and review some of these guidelines. So the COVID-19 global pandemic saw many institutions implement changes in the operation of their mechanical systems as a result of reduced occupancy to save money or to slow the spread of the virus. In some instances, occupancy limits and control of movements can be effective and reducing risk of airborne transmission. Although increasing ventilation dilutes virus concentration, and several studies indicate that disease transmission is occurring in areas with very little air exchange, but not in zones where ventilation rates approach cold minimums. Open windows in proper times is highly recommended, for instance. Fortunately, there are many options from which to select the ingredients for the recipe most suited to each facility. There is no one perfect solution, and obviously our collections in the tropical areas needs to readapt with their own resources. Even a passive action in order to control the environment is an action. So I want to talk for my last topic, just briefly, why you should invest in a preventive art conservation actions in this moment. because it's the best action for collection preservation in order to not wasting your time, financial resources, and the worst scenario, your artwork's value. For that purpose, you need to come with a respectful and trained art conservator. We should suggest to you with thinking in preventive conservation collection investment, avoiding conservation artworks treatments when it may be too late. As you may know, art conservator works as a medical practice. We encourage you from prevention, but if it is necessary, any urgent treatment we can manage immediately. We understand our artwork's patients' pain. We don't need our stakeholders call us just when they have some artworks issues. Sometimes the different art agents talk about our expensive estimated service rates, but this is not real. If you really want to care properly your art collection, you should count with us since the first moment, even previous to invest in artwork. We are the art collection secret weapon, your best friend to be close. Simply, art conservation protocols can reduce risk at the permanent and temporary art collections exhibitions, transit, travel, installations, or manipulated artworks without compromising life and artwork safety. Art conservators are not a luxury for a collection. We are a necessity you should consider for your best. So my final conclusion, we need to be flexible and collaborate more than ever between all of us and work together with common sense. Rethink from a builder mindset how to don't add more risk into the different art scenarios. It's a big challenge and we are learning every single day about pandemic situation. But using a preventive conservation approach reduce reliance on treatment. And so I highly recommend you to keep an eye into the IIC and American Institute of Conservation website for our research as well in our website. And nowadays, there is nothing more desired than the art conservator list agenda to the impossibility of traveling. Keeping artworks and cultural heritage materials safe in art conservation hands is mostly a matter of common sense and willingness to adopt new approaches to collection care. And I pass the microphone to my colleague, Martha Reta. Please go ahead. Unmute yourself, Martha. I can hear you. I can hear you. Somebody can hear her? John? No?
No.
So,
maybe her microphone got disconnected.
Yeah.
No.
No.
Maybe her Bluetooth ran out of battery. I don't know. Let's go to Lilia, and then we'll come back to Marta.
Great, thank you very much, and good morning, everybody. I am based on my home office area from National University. I work on the Heritage Conservation Program of the university. So we all know that heritage institutions are coping with many challenges as the world deals with the COVID-19 situation. Collections are now directly at risk since the pandemic complicates their care. So I will talk to you about storage issues and the importance of these ones, since good storage is the foundation of an effective collection care. Advancing conservation while promoting accessibility and use. Efforts must concentrate on preventive conservation, as Julia already told, and emphasize risk management approach. So we should never forget 4 important topics. Risk assesses your collections. Focus on your resources to manage the risk, and very important, on your budget. Be real, be realistic. Schedule collections, care checks. And please make emergency plans. If your institutions need to close indefinitely, do so in manner that provides adequate security, fire protection, integrated pest management, and environmental control. These two last ones are really, really, really important. In a storage area, environmental problems leads to biological problems, and it can be devastating. Implement regular exterior and, if possible, interior inspections, and consider how you could respond to other kinds of emergency, such as water leaks or fires if needed. The COVID-19 pandemic has disrupted the activities of museums all over the world. The threatening of their financial survival and the livelihood of thousands of museum professionals. ICOM informs through a survey that they done that specifically the situation for freelance museum professional is alarming. 16% of the respondents said that they have been temporarily laid off, and 22% have not had their contracts renewed. The freelance sector is very fragile. 56% of the respondents stated that they will have to suspend the payment of their own salary as a result of the crisis. And 39% said their firms will have to reduce the number of the staff. So as Julia said, this is a really, really important matter, because this is when the team of the staff should really take this in consideration and avoid dismissing conservators, or at least the main theme of conservation, to avoid this risk that I have already said before, environmental risk on the storage area. It is known that the artworks that are not seen are even in more danger than the ones that are exposed. So it is not just activities with or for the public that have been deeply impacted by lockdowns. In fact, museums have found that it is necessary to review essential functions such as security management and collection conservation. So responsible museum managers of staff should have in mind always that conservators possess expertise to preserve cultural heritage in a way that retains the integrity of the object and ensures that the objects in a museum's collection are kept in the best possible condition. So it is important for us to insist that there are a series of processes that can only be carried out by the specialized conservator, and that the risk of management plan most likely was being done by a professional conservator who has the skills to analyze all the possible processes of decay that may exist in a certain moment. You may have all your preventive conservation plan already set, but you shouldn't leave it in other hands just to check on. Because if there are incipient processes of decay, the conservation area can just look at it and stop those incipient decays and not wait until they are all completely in a bad way. So this, as I said, can cause deterioration in the collection even more if they are not going to be on exhibition, and there will be no personnel to review the storage area. So we as team conservators, Julia and Marta, if she's not a conservator, but she deals with all these matters, we encourage the personnel museum and the staffs to take care of conservation specialty. We know that in some cases they are dismissed because with the salary of one conservator, maybe you can have the salary of persons, but it's an investment in a long time. It's important not to think that it's not needed because you don't need to restore something. Conservation area is not only to restore, it's to be preventive in the care of your collections. So if Marta is okay now with his micro, I will pass my micro to her.
Hi Lilia, and sorry everyone for the technical issue. I'm glad to be here because I work in an art gallery. I'm the registrar, and I'm gonna repeat myself. In the galleries, we work with processes, dynamics, logistics, and strategies, sometimes different from the ones followed by museums. And when I received the invitation and I heard the topic gallery maintenance difficulties, I immediately thought not in terms of conservation that my colleagues already talked about, because mainly we follow the same safety practices implemented in the gallery spaces, in the office, in the warehouse with our visitors, between the staff. But I thought in the term maintenance as keeping the gallery afloat during the pandemic situation, because as you may know, we are immersed in the art market and we need to keep the business running. No? I mean, we need to fulfill our commitments with the clients. We need to deliver them the work they acquire. And that's why we have not stopped in terms of shipments. And my dear Luciano won't let me lie. I mean, so far from March until now, I've made more than 85 international shipments, and I have 10 more until December, not only for collectors, but for other projects. But one of the best achievements we've made is to make the collectors and the staff and from the galleries self-aware of the situation, that now they won't have their works immediately, that not everything is urgent, that they know now that there are flight cancellations, the processors may be delayed, and sometimes there are higher prices. But then also in terms of market, you may know that most of the art fairs were canceled, and they are the main platform for international sales. So we are facing more challenges in terms of how we are going to present our collections to the different publics. You know now that the must do is the online viewing rooms for the new normality. So that's also a hidden effort for not only for the galleries, also for the museums, that they need to work in their digital platform because they need to meet an extra effort. They need to compete with the sensorial experience to be in front of the work. And thinking of that, we are going to present in Mexico City an interesting project that will fuse the digital platform with the physical. It's called Basel Miami Selections at Casa Versalles, in the spirit of solidarity, community building, and incentivizing the local art market. The 9 Mexican galleries that are participating in this year's edition will present in a capsule format some of the work that will be as well in the online viewing room. Of course, this is for one of our public, that is the collectors, with a reduced number of them going to be with the work as they were in the fair. Of course, with the health and safety measures for them and for the few people of the galleries that will accompany them. And also due to the economic crisis, these galleries will donate the 10% of each sale to 2 local public museums from contemporary art, the Museo Tamayo and Museo Carrillo Gil. But also we have more problems, like the galleries have not everything in market of sales. We also have cultural projects, and the challenge to how to present, for example, an exhibition in New York with high number of COVID cases and not doing it in a closed space. So 2 weeks ago, we just opened the exhibition Titan, that we took the private to the public outdoors in 12 phone booths. We installed 12 works from 12 artists. And these booths will be removed from the city landscape in early next year. And well, we are facing all these problems of how to present our collections to the people. And well, I don't have time to talk more about gallery maintenance issues due to the crisis. Because we need to reduce the space in our warehouses, we were forced to cut some members of the staff. We need to maximize the installation and packing material. And I mean, some galleries have closed and we need to help each other. The COVID-19 has given us a lot of problems, but we need to, as you may say, we need to grab the bull by the horns, and we need to have solutions. And at least in Kurimansuto, these hidden efforts are not only from the people behind the scenes, like the registrar, the art handlers, the warehouse managers, but from all the team, because we really work as a unit. No? Now, John, you can pass the word to the next topic.
Okay, thank you. This is where we would normally have some questions. Does anybody have any comments regarding the chats from our colleagues here? There's nothing in our live chat at the moment, so this is your chance to ask questions. I told Marta that I would ask her the very difficult questions, but maybe I'll spare you for now. I do have one question myself for our conservators. You know, we've had a lot of talk about conservation and preparing objects and disinfecting objects in galleries, etc. Do we have any evidence of any cases or any infections occurring because of contact or alleged contact with objects? And this is a topic that's extended through librarians and archivists and documents as well. Do you know of any infections that way? No.
I don't know about you, Lilia, but I don't have any evidence.
No, I don't either have any news about any infection because of the work of art. No.
No. So right. It's good news.
And Marta, this concept for how to sell work in this platform, is this something that is modeled off of another event or other people doing this so that they can support the whole community, or is this something unique to Mexico City?
As far as I know, we are in Mexico. It's the first time the galleries are doing this. I asked to my team if they know about this in other countries, and they say no. That I'm super glad that in Mexico we are doing this, because although we don't have as much money as we want, and also our economy is not as good, I guess it's a good thing that we are helping the museums, the public museums, because they are having more problems that we have. And this combining things, virtual and physical, it's an ongoing process, because we haven't decided how to present that. I mean, everything is online with all the viewing rooms and with different platforms, but now they want to, I don't know, with a phone or with an extra camera to present the collectors like in real time, showing like this work is from Damian Ortega and blah, blah, blah. And they need to face this challenge to have the work closer to the public.
If anyone out there listening has any other, say, community-oriented responses to the pandemic, that would be great. Share it with us on the live chat. And I'd love to know about everyone's experiences, because it's a very interesting concept. Yeah.
And another thing, sorry, John, that we are also doing, and we are very proud of it, is that, as I said, many galleries have closed. And for example, in our space, we divided the space in different rooms, and we are lending our space to another small galleries so they can present their artists and their work, because they don't have a space of their own anymore.
Okay.
May I say something else about art first? Just in case if somebody wanna invest in an art piece, nowadays it's more important than ever. Use the condition report as a tool in order to save unexpected artworks in their homes or in their areas. So we highly recommend you do condition reports in order to invest in our works before do it. So it's just to help the art industry to run. So we can work all together through these new lines, just adding to the art industry first.
Exactly. And, you know, we've got plenty of freelance registrars and conservators willing to help you with those condition reports. Just give us a call. All right. So without any further comments on this topic, we're going to move on to our next one. And that is adapting our services to these challenging times. And moderating this section will be Paul Williamston from Constantine in the UK. Take it away, Paul.
Oh, yeah. Good afternoon, evening, wherever you are. I'll be quick because John's told us off that we're running out of time, so I'll try and be quick as I can. The UK is in a lockdown again, unfortunately, 4 weeks, same as Antonio said, different tiers, but now we had different tiers running, but now they've just closed the whole of the UK. The schools are still open. Museums are closed, but a lot of the staff are still working behind the scenes, still organising, curating, receiving shipments in and out, etc. Galleries are closed as well, but they're operating mostly by appointment only. I'm going to mention the B word. Basically, we've been having a lot of Brexit. That is, we've been having a lot of talks with UK customs at different levels. And I think we're pretty confident that things will be resolved. I know there's things from our UK customs or department, DCMS, talking to various their counterparts throughout Europe of reciprocal things we can do with each other. So I'm sure, as other people said during this talk, there'll be things we can work out between the agents to make it happen. So what we've heard so far is promising. No one knows what the answer is fully yet, but it will be resolved. There's always a way. I mean, customs itself have had many changes over the years where we've had to resolve problems where one country didn't recognise the other countries, etc., etc. So it will work out. So first topic is about the increase or the notable increase in the use of conservators and registrars within fine art shipping companies. So I've got a quick example and then I'll pass over to Elizabeth. So for me personally, we've done this for many, like Antonio said, where we're on trucks, watching it offload and you stream it via WhatsApp or something back to wherever the institution is watching, installations, etc., etc. But I had one personally in a Middle Eastern country for a US museum where they were going to send a few of their staff. In the end, they weren't allowed to travel. So we had to act as we were packing up an exhibition. It was 200 or 300 objects, and it was like a 2 or 3 week deinstallation. Plus we had to act as the registrar and conservator because it happened all last minute. So we didn't have time to organise anything else. And it's just really from the experience. And there's a 10-hour time difference, which made it interesting. And we had to live stream packing of certain objects where the museum were concerned about. And then we had to learn their system. We didn't know what this system was for condition reporting. So they could at the end of beginning of their day, at the end of our day, they could see what we'd done throughout the day. And I think that the thing to take from it was is preparation. We only had 2 days to prepare before we left to learn their system and understand how they work. They work very well. We used a combination of WhatsApp, Google Meet programs, and things like that to communicate. And we had a sort of set times. We checked in every day, every evening, and then, as I say, during the day. And it worked very well, actually. It was a big installation, and the first time something like that on that scale for me personally, and it worked very well. I'd just like to say my experience in actually getting back to the States with a freighter, we had to charter, because it was such a huge shipment, we had to charter an aircraft and just from experience, where a particular airline said, yeah, it's all booked 2 weeks' time. 2 days before they said, no, you can't have it anymore. Someone else wants to pay more for it to them. So then we had to find another solution. So, you know, there's always, as Antonio said, there's always a solution. So whatever's thrown our way, we always find a way around it with other agents and everything else. So it always works out well. That was it really. I've rushed it a bit because I know we're short of time. So on that note, I'll pass on to Elizabeth Christensen from Mobile Denmark, who'll give another experience or take on it.
Yeah, well, thank you. Well, we are 2 conservators in our company, and I'm one of them. I don't think it's a new thing to have conservators in fine art shipping companies. It's been going that way for several years, but there is an increase in the need for conservators in shipping companies in order to do condition reports, but also advise on packing methods and help with installations and even act as couriers when the institution are not able to send one. So that's why many art agents have their own conservation staff. They can, of course, also provide a list of local freelance independent conservators that can help out in a situation where the lender are not able to send their own courier due to travel ban or restrictions. I think that the relationship between a fine art agent or shipper and the owner of an object is about trust. It's the owner trusts the agent to do the risk assessment, to find the best solution and safest solution for the transport. And in the same way, an agent can also provide a conservator to help out and act as a courier, and especially in these difficult times that we have now. An example that we had was last month, where I had to travel to London to collect a hand carry. It was 2 small silver cups belonging to the Danish National Museum, and they had been on exhibition at the British Museum and was actually stuck during the lockdown the first time. And we tried several times to find solutions to get them back home. And here in October, the National Indemnity Insurance was expiring, and also Brexit was closing in. So the National Museum was very keen on getting their objects back to Denmark. We sought out different solutions. At the time, there were exemptions for the quarantine rules, and you could be a special worker, and we tried different solutions. But what we ended up doing was that I, as an employee of a EU community license holder for the international carriage of goods, I was exempted to the quarantine rules. So I could travel to the UK. And as a conservator, I could act as a courier on behalf of the Danish National Museum. It was very important for the Danish owner for the National Museum that the courier was a conservator due to the handling under the security check at the airport, but also if it had been on a truck. So any risk of security check where it would involve handling, they had insisted on being a conservator. So in that way, we found a solution, and everything went smooth. It took a lot of preparation and hard work, like Paul also talked about. It's about a lot of work before doing it. And we had to make sure that we complied with both institutions' requirements. But we adapted our service and to fit the requirements.
Okay, thank you. Next, we're going to just talk briefly about storage facilities being used and adapted in additional or extra ways. Firstly, we're going to introduce Marco Oosterwijk from Hiskia van Carling in the Netherlands.
Hi, yes, thanks, Paul. Thank you for joining us today. Our company offers climatized and secure museum storage facilities in The Hague and Antwerp. It's mostly used for museums, national institutions, and private collections. We offer permanent storage, short-term storage, and storage of exhibitions between venues. For example, if the exhibition between a first and a second venue do not connect immediately. If necessary, we can also offer custom bonded services, which means that we are not obliged to import the artwork in the country. The museum does not have to put up a bond for the VAT, which in some cases can be quite substantial, seeing the value of some exhibitions. During the lockdown, we have not received a lot of requests to store complete exhibitions, as we know that a number of museums kept the exhibitions in their museum, which is also usually preferred by the lenders. After the pandemic hit, the museums in the Netherlands had to close. I know that the following example is a little bit off topic, but I wanted to share with you anyway, because one museum in the Netherlands managed to organize a drive-through exhibition in a large convention center in Rotterdam. This was an exhibition which could only be seen by driving through it with an electrical car. So basically compare it with getting a hamburger, some fries, and a banana milkshake at McDonald's, but substitute all those ingredients with the digestion of cultural heritage by looking at paintings, video installations, and sculptures. It was a great success, and the visitors were provided with an electrical car that they needed to test first in a test area, and then after which they could take it to the convention center. It was a great example of how museums will find ways to keep organizing exhibitions, even within the tight set of health regulations. However, unfortunately, most museums had to completely stop their programming. The collection care staff members were still allowed to work on their collection in our facility, as the facility is large enough to ensure the social distance regulations. In terms of storage solutions needed due to the pandemic, we saw a couple of examples. We had one large air freight shipment which was longer in our warehouse than expected. It came from an art fair and was not able to travel back to New York for a couple of weeks. Another example is that we now have received some inquiries from museums which are likely to close due to economic reasons, and they need a quote on the permanent storage of their collection, which is of course incredibly sad. We do expect, however, that in the next couple of months, we will receive more requests from museums that might require storage space, as we expect more museums to be forced to close. For our viewers, most of our partners on this platform and in our industry offer storage space and related services. So please contact your local agent in order to obtain more information about the possibilities.
Thank you, Marco. Also introducing Sylvie Michel from LP Art in France to talk about similar circumstances.
Yes, hello. Well, I would say that my what I would have to say is nearly the same as Marco. We have, of course, area for storage, secured, climatized under customs. But from the beginning of the pandemic, we didn't receive any special requests. I think we had the chance in France to have no closes of museums. So we didn't receive any kind of request like that. And the same from art galleries, we didn't get any request of storage. And for all the exhibitions we've been working on, for the moment, all they've been kept in the museums when exhibition closed, and they've been sent back later when it was possible to find flights. Or we managed, it was more in March, April, to get all the artworks arrived before the first lockdown, and it was stored inside of the museums until we could install them. So we didn't have to deal for anything about storage due to pandemic for the moment. And we didn't heard about any special requests coming in the next months.
Okay. Thank you, Sylvie. Next, we're just going to talk quickly about utilising our view rooms differently. As Marta said earlier about different ways of using the viewing rooms. And to explain, just give an example and talk about that in more details, Luciano Frohoff from Mobile Transport in Basel. Thank you.
Yes, hi there, this is Luciano. We were facing these, I wouldn't say problems, but over the last 20 years, also during the Art Fair Basel, with many overbooked showrooms at the Art Fair. We then offered, since many years at this time, our showrooms to our gallery clients, advisors, and so on. The showrooms serve as well for professional photo shootings and restores, like, for example, cleaning a sculpture. We knew that since, as I said, 30 years, that there is a demand for it. So in our two recently built state-of-art warehouses, we also paid attention to these facts, not only earthquake safety, intrusion protection, resistance or low oxygen and so on. We also had to put the attention on the showrooms because we faced a lot of demands also from the collector side, from the auction houses and so on. So we decided to build a various kind of showrooms because there is a different demand for the showrooms as well. There are various sizes of the showrooms. I mean, we had paintings just recently, one 6 by 3 meters. We have sculptures of 2 tons to show. So we need special floors. We have daylight or professional lighting. We have walls to install heavy objects and with possibilities of even live transmission of the presentation. I mean, it's like an online viewing showroom. Of course, beside of all that, you need a comfortable environment for the clients or for the potential buyers, comfortable chairs, drinks, coffee, whatever it takes, to give really the gallery and the collectors time to talk about the artwork, to study the artwork, and yeah, to give them a relaxed time as well during this. I mean, it's one thing is the sale, and the other one is the study of the work itself, and also for, as I mentioned before, for a restorer to work in peace for a limited time, of course, because these showrooms, we rent them for a day or half a day, but not for these exaggerated prices like the Art Fair Basel. That's about it. Any questions?
Thanks, Luciano. Yeah, any questions, just give a shout in the, just ask it through the group chat. Lastly, but not least, we just want to talk quickly about innovation, research programs, new packing solutions, and microclimates for packing and vitrines, etc., etc. Just to reintroduce Marco again to talk about that from Ischia. Thank you.
Yes. Yeah, when we were faced with the consequences of the pandemic, we obviously had to take some necessary measures. We stopped all non-critical investments, looked very careful at our costs, and seeing that a large part of our turnover has always been the loan traffic for exhibitions, we unfortunately had no other choice to let a substantial part of our staff go. This means that by the end of this year, we lost about 1/3 of our staff. This is of course a horrible scenario, but in order to stay financially healthy as a company, we had no other choice to do so. Simultaneously, we decided not to stop completely with the innovation of our fine art packing products. We are a firm believer that innovation will benefit the fine art industry in the long run, and that is why we will not stop to stop creating solutions for packing of artwork. During the last couple of weeks, we were in the middle of a project with a museum to design and construct a method to transport one of their paintings, which was not meant to travel anymore due to its fragility. We designed new corner blocks which can be used in traditional wooden crates and also in our turtle crates. These new corner blocks have an outstanding performance on the isolation of shock and vibration during transit. And this project was done in collaboration with the conservation staff of a Dutch museum, a university professor who carried out the scientific research, and our team of specialists to design the actual product. During the lockdown, we continued working on the project, but we obviously had to work a bit differently. Most meetings were by Teams or Zoom, and the final packing was done at the museum with a minimal amount of people present. However, unfortunately, the exhibition with this particular loan was postponed at the last minute as the museum had to close down due to the second lockdown a couple of weeks ago. Hopefully, it will be on view in a couple of months. As our museums are closed as well for a couple of weeks, we will expect a further decrease in loan traffic. We will, however, to continue working on other research projects, and with the proper adjustments during the process, it is possible to keep innovation on our agenda. That's it.
Thank you, Marco. Now over to Ana Turbenca from SIT in Spain.
Yes, well, I'm convinced that the expansion of services is one of the keys to survival for companies. Research and development departments are essential to achieve the capabilities of companies in new disciplines and services. My company, SIT, has been researching and applying new preventive conservation technologies for more than 15 years. But now, due to COVID-19, our ability to offer studies and treatments of air quality, microclimates, disinfections, display and vitrines design, etc., has never been more important. We have also made great advances in audiovisual and communication technologies to apply them during the virtual courier experiences, replacing the face-to-face work of the traditional courier during the logistic chain of services. And all this effort, often unknown, is now very relevant because companies need to expand their businesses areas to all possible markets. It is gratifying, at least, that those of us who invested in research and development in the past years, like Elizabeth and Marco said, are now ready to offer more fields of business when logistics has declined so significantly. That's all on my side.
Okay, I think that's it for this section. I think, John, you're going to sum up.
Sure. I will sum up. I don't see any questions from our listeners. So if you have any, please sneak them in now. Otherwise, we're going to move towards concluding. But before we do that, I have my own question, and also we have some from our other colleagues here. But my own personal one is, we're talking about innovation. We're talking about a lot of other topics. Most of them are very, depressing, things closing, having layoffs, furloughs, etc. But what are some areas that are actually thriving at the moment? Is there anything, maybe it's a part of your business that you didn't expect to do well or normally doesn't, but now because of lockdown, it does thrive? Does anyone have any thoughts on that? Does this exist? I would imagine most everyone's social media accounts are doing very well. I mean, one thought about the viewing room also is that how important has and this is sort of geared towards maybe Marta, is that how important has say, you know, whether WhatsApp or Instagram become for selling work?
I mean, our social media is working fast. No, the girls in communication area are generating a lot of information, but in terms of the sales, Instagram is not the main platform. Now our online viewing rooms and the presentations through dossiers and PDFs and that kind of stuff. And as Luciano said, sometimes like making private showing rooms, like physically showing rooms just to admit one or two collectors just to see and see the work. And that is also a challenge for the art handlers and for the installation team, because we need to change the works in the offices, no? Because a collector is coming and they need their own space. And in other times, I mean, they have the whole exhibition to be here, to gather in the openings, and this is not happening anymore. No, the social part of the collection of the art market is not happening. So it's more like one-on-one, the work, no, from the sales team with the collector, and by like Luciano said, no, like a virtual presentation or online viewing rooms, but not in Instagram or in Facebook or in Twitter. That part is for the general public and for constant information of what's happening in the gallery.
Right. We do have one other question from our own panel. In terms of innovation, how is it, why aren't more carriers, meaning transportation companies, not offering their customers tracking systems such as RFID for each work, or new systems to encourage the use of external warehouses? Could we think of a unique system for the art world that museums and shippers for the art world can use?
I mean, there are tracking systems available now, but I know there's a museum in the UK who are partnering with a technology sector to do such things. But RFID is although we've looked at RFID and we couldn't make it work, to be honest. I know it's used in supermarkets, it's used every day, but we are still looking at it, but to try and use it for art tracking and movement. But we have, I mean, as everyone else has, systems that can track things anyway and monitor the temperature, humidity, vibration, etc. But RFID, there is a UK museum who are partly very special. I'm not earning any money from it. I'm just promoting it. Yeah. We're involved, but there's a few UK agents who are involved in testing what we do and developing that. So I think there will be, if this does work, it will be amazing.
Well, I mean, I've often had that question where, you know, we can track a great white shark to the middle of the ocean for years at a time. And why don't we do this for our objects? And I know some people do it, like you say. I know I've done loans to the Getty, and as soon as, you know, you can, they'll, for their insurance purposes, they'll put an RFID on the back of the work before it goes up. But yeah, I mean, yeah, Antonio.
I think, yeah, there are many different systems. I think it's quite difficult to have one to use for everybody because, you know, there are in Europe, there are United States, but they are getting very, very easy to use. And with access on platform where you do not need any special software. I mean, you just can go and see what is happening. We are using a lot, like I think many other agents. We had one big exhibition going to Hong Kong where we used 40 devices, one for each crate. This was requested by the museum, the Italian museum. And it was quite easy to share the link and for the lender to see what was happening, and was quite useful because one of the two freighter shipment had to do a stop, a transit stop, which was not scheduled. And so it was quite easy to see what was happening, that the condition, the microclimate condition were okay, until we have been able to send someone to supervise and stayed for one day. That make the museum very, very relaxed about the condition that in another situation wouldn't be the same. So it's, I think we are selling, all of us are selling this system, and ready to use and quite easy, not that expensive anymore. There is still a problem of life battery. That is the main problem, and size. Depending on the size, you want to keep the size small, and then the life battery, especially to transmit, is can last maybe, depending how many information you want to have, and as how much quickly it can last 4 or 5 days, 15 days, 1 month. But they are ready for the market, already using.
Right. I think this has been a big. Sorry, go ahead.
No, just to say that I was very surprised that this kind of device were not more requested by museums, as far as we have less couriers. But we saw that included in some estimate from agents saying, in case we have to use this kind of device, but we never had the request at the end. We had a lot of requests about the secure closing of trucks because of no couriers on board and stops overnights, questions about that, but no request about tracking systems.
I think this is interesting. I mean, the reference, of course, is that tracking devices in crates during shipping have been probably the biggest innovation that we've seen for transportation of objects during this lockdown. And I think that most companies will provide this upon request and are adding it into their estimates. Of course, this is something that I think it best complements a courier instead of replaces a courier, my opinion. But it's something that I see as being an enduring thing, even after couriers continue traveling on airplanes. So we do have actually some questions now from the chat. So one person is asking for the conservator's opinion about the development of the shipping crates similar to the turtle. So now's your chance to make Marco uncomfortable, Julia.
Sorry about that. I don't understand the question about the crate.
About the new crate designs, such as the turtle or maybe the rock box, that are reusable. I think that's essentially the question. Yeah.
I'm not familiar with that, so I have to be. I don't have a proper answer for that. Maybe okay. Anna can say something, but I'm not sure about that.
I think, yeah, looking at these crates from a conservator's perspective.
I'm not sure about the questions.
Do you have a conservator's perspective on new crate development, such as the turtle crate?
Totally, yes. I mean, this crate has been tested. I mean, there is no much about the personal opinion. It is something very scientific. So not only the turtle, rockbox, the SPS we are working with it since the past 25 years already, and it's amazing. It's amazing the save of materials, and results are so good. Of course, all systems has advantages and disadvantages because of the increase of volume, because these crates are normally much larger than the piece. So for air freight shipping, it's not, you don't save or you increase the cost in air freight. But for road transport, it's much affordable, or, you know, it's case by case, because we are talking about art. So there's nothing equal. So, but anyway, these systems, I think, is a great advance in general, talking in proportions, in percentages.
Yes.
I think, yep, go ahead, sorry.
Well, I was just agreeing, and I think like any new product or innovation, if it's a crate or in packing material, I think it's also always important to do the research and learn about what the material and the products are about. And the turtle is tested, and you can find their own testing, but also international articles like from De Restauro and conservation magazines, where they do the testing of several crates, not just the turtle. And I just think it's important that you always look into the research and the testing. And then you, in this case, there's also the sustainability side of it, that it's become very much more important for many museums to take into account. So that's why it's also been a different product to offer. And as a conservator, what I like is that it also minimizes handling, because it's the flexible crates. You can usually pack in a better and faster way than the wooden crates. But it's always different from situation to situation. So always know your product, know your item, your object, and what's best for the object in that situation.
I think another important aspect of these crates is that now we have competition growing in this area. So there's not just the turtle crate as an option. There's, you know, things like Rockbox, and I know other companies have comparable things. So having this competition could drive the further development for, say, more 3D objects or other things, so that we can continue to reduce the amount of single-use materials in our shipments. So I think that's going to be an important thing. So make sure that you add to your loan contracts reusable crates. That's my tip of the day. So, looks like there are no more questions. Is that correct? Any other questions from our panel? Okay, if not, then I think we will conclude. Thanks everybody for joining us today. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel so that you get notifications of upcoming webinars that we're going to be doing. And really appreciate you participating in the live chat as well. Do you have the date of the next one, Anna, in the topic, or Julia?
No, we are still planning for the next webinar. So we will inform in our web whenever it's ready. Okay.
Great. And lastly, please visit our website and subscribe there for notifications for theloveofart.info. Is that correct? And with that, we're going to leave it. Any other thoughts? Let's go.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.